Hi, everybody. I'm Pete Christensen,
And I'm Coffee Brown.
and welcome to episode 12 of
Don't Die Dumb.
Now, today we're going to go into questions and answers. That is to say, I've been getting a lot of emails and messages about the podcast, so I want to answer them for a change. We'll both answer them. Number one, I can't watch what I don't believe in. Now, I don't know. I would hope that you'll send me another message. Tell me what is it that you don't believe in, because maybe we can straighten that out. I'm personally not trying to force you to believe anything.
I also am not trying to force you to believe anything, but if you can't watch what you don't believe in, you will never grow. You have basically announced that you're not someone who can learn, and therefore it's true. You're not someone who can learn. Sorry about that. But for the rest of you, I hope you go out of your way to listen to people you don't agree with, to try to figure out if they might make more sense than you expect, why they make sense to themselves, whether there's some ground between where you are and where they are. So I feel very, very badly for someone who cannot watch what they don't believe in, but I can tell you I spend a lot of time watching things I don't believe in to find out what I'm missing.
Yeah, I'd also like to say this. Let me know. Is it the politics, the ecology? Is it the social things that we talk about? Let me know what it is, and maybe we can explain our opinion on it. And remember, the basic idea when we started this was to get people thinking more, not to push any ideology. But number two, is this supposed to be a debate? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we kind of started out testing that format, but the problem was that people kept painting Pete with the brush of the character that he was wearing.
Yeah, I would take the alternative viewpoint. If he said something about African Americans, I would take a racist view. But people thought I was actually a racist, so I wanted to stop that right away. But no, it's not. We're not trying to debate each other. Maybe I think that comes from the early shows.
I think so too. And also, I have often played devil's advocate, and probably will sometimes on this podcast. And then later, people think that I am endorsing the perspective that I was portraying. We actually do want to bring in more than just our own perspective. So sometimes we try to represent the voice of people we imagine would disagree with us. And since we're imagining someone who disagrees with us, it's likely they don't always feel correctly represented. So that's where some of that semi-debate format came from. I'm not sure it's the best. Well, tell us what you think, whether that is a good way to move forward or not.
I also want to point out he likes farce. So last week when he said Taylor Swift causes autism, it's so absurd. Please don't take that true. But you do that quite often, and I hope you're not taking that seriously. We're just having fun with the subject. Many of these subjects are so dry, it's good to lighten up a bit. Number four, the fourth question we were asked was, could you do a recap at the end? I don't see any problem with that, but I like to end it on a light subject. Give you the fluff news story at the end so you don't go to bed thinking about murder and mayhem.
Yeah, mostly it's a matter of crowding stuff in. The problem is whatever we talk about requires at least some time to develop the reasons for and against. If we were actually pundits, we would just tell you what we think and tell you that you should think it and we'd be done. But that's not what we want to do. We want to get you thinking about stuff, not necessarily agreeing with us, just thinking about stuff. And for that, we sometimes have to lay out some background. So we get crowded for time at the end.
And I would say this, instead of doing recap at the end, maybe as we end each subject, I'll say, ask the question, so the bottom line is, or something of that nature.
We'll try to incorporate more of that. And more comments would let us know how important that is to you.
Now this I found perplexing. Some of the subjects you talk about are too disturbing. They bother me. You got any idea what it is?
I'm not sure what that refers to. I would ask that commentator to send us a more detailed comment so that we know in what way we're disturbing you. But there are a lot of things in the world that are disturbing, and we talk about the things that catch our attention.
Oh, the rise of the Nazi movement, the rise of the anti-Semites and things. Yeah, we talk about those, and they are disturbing. But I think they're important. It's like watching a movie that's a true story, but it's about, say, the Tulsa Massacre. It's still important to watch. Siskel and Ebert Roger Ebert once said it was a hard movie to watch about the Australian gangs, but I felt it was important to watch. So I hope you'll take it with that kind of grain of salt.
As an example, the oppression of women I find deeply, deeply disturbing. But I also think that it's a topic that right now there are people literally lobbying for the oppression of women. So we feel obliged to comment on that. But if that's one of the topics that bothered you, boy, I'm in the club. It bothers me as well.
Yeah. So this kind of goes along with it. Are you trying to be political? No, I'm not, and I don't think you are either, but it permeates, in a free country, it permeates everything that's going on.
Yeah, for example, we haven't gotten to this as a topic, but the science on climate change shouldn't be political. What should be political is what do we do about it? What are the best ways to balance our current values and our lifestyle and sacrifices, if any, that might be involved in mitigating climate change? Those are legitimate political discussions. But to just cover our ears and go, it's a hoax, it's the Chinese, it's a Chinese hoax. Well, you have experienced every summer getting hotter and hotter. How are the Chinese pulling that off? And if this really is a Chinese hoax, I want to know how they're doing it, because that is some super tech.
And quite often the things we're talking about aren't political. But you may take them if you have, you may take them as political if you have an opposite view of it. When I talked about the Mexican gray wolf being delisted, that bothers me from an environmental view. But the environment shouldn't be political. It should be something we all care about. People tell me, well, climate change and global warming, it's a hoax. Okay, so what if it is? Don't you still want clean air and clean water for your grandchildren? I mean,
yeah, you haven't seen my sign-off page, but in my emails, the signature page is a cartoon that says, what if we got clean air, clean water, preserve these species, and stabilize the environment, and stabilize the economy, and it was all for nothing, right?
Okay, this one kind of hits on something we were talking about earlier.
I want to back up to the political thing for a second.
Oh, no. Yeah, go ahead.
Every week, Pete and I go, how can we be less political this week? Neither of us actually enjoys talking politics. And neither of us wants to be seen as a political ideologue. But it's just so hard to avoid. It's just everywhere. I mean, right now, the CDC is posting under RFK Jr. that vaccines cause autism, which they don't. We just talked about that. That is just scientifically disproven. And yet it's being presented as a fact, and that CDC citation will be cited 50 years from now.
The next comment, it's not a question but a comment, is you should go deeper on women's subjects. My thought is this. We've only done a dozen of these. This is our 12th. And what we're still feeling it out as, should we put this in blocks of 10 minutes each? Should we break it down to 2 minutes? Should we do a deep dive on one subject? I'm not sure.
We would like feedback from you guys. Do you like the shorter or the longer bits better? And as far as women go, it's a topic we'll probably keep returning to, because this will shock you, by the way. I'm going to tell you two things that will absolutely shock you. One is women are half the human world. I know. Astonishing, isn't it, right? And the other is women are people, which is even weirder. But they are. They have minds, they have thoughts, they have goals and ambitions. So half of everything in the world is women. So of course they're going to keep showing up on the podcast. And it is, you can call it an agenda if you want, although I don't see how. But Pete and I are committed to the idea that women are actually people. And so if you call that a political agenda, then that would be our agenda, I guess.
And perhaps we will in the future spend one entire 30-minute episode just on women's subjects. It's okay with me. I don't think if we break this down and I've seen people that do 10-minute and 15-minute, you never get into any depth on these things, so I don't know how you're going to learn anything. You would learn, the basics, but I would hope that we can find an audience that would appreciate this. We'll see. Here's one that is kind of accusatory. What are your sources? Where do you get this?
In general, I try to mention them as we're going along. One of the reasons they're not as tightly sourced as I would like, for example, I would strongly recommend people go check out Science Versus, which is a charming science podcast by an American woman who grew up in Australia, so she has a deep Australian accent, Wendy Zuckerman. And where I'm going with this is she is meticulously cited. But she also has a production staff and a budget and things like that. We don't. We meet on Sunday and chat about stuff. But I do try to indicate what our sources are. More importantly, though, we want you to go out and check sources yourself. And by sources, I do not mean Alex Jones or Joe Rogan or Twitter or anything like that. You need to learn, and we'll talk more about it, what constitute what we would consider legitimate sources of science, of history. There are better and worse places to go. Pro tip, History Channel, not a great one.
Well, people always say to me when I get in a discussion with, well, where'd you get that? What are your sources for that? And I have to remind them over and over again, like the person I'm talking to, I didn't memorize it. I didn't look through the bibliography, but you're more than welcome to Google it anytime you want. So and I try and preface what I'm saying with, from what I've read, from what I've heard, and if I know the source, I'll tell it. But if I don't, feel free to Google it. And if I'm wrong, let me know. That's fine with me,
And this goes back to I can't watch what I don't agree with or
what I don't believe in.
What I don't believe in. When I prep for one of these, I specifically go to sites that will disagree with me so I can learn what their arguments are. And I do my best to represent the viewpoints that I'm pushing against as well. For example, we just did vaccines and autism, and these people are correct that a reputable scientific journal and a reputable scientist published results that seem to show a connection between vaccines and autism. We started there and dismantled it. I'm not faulting anyone who looked at that and said, well, this looks like science to me. Yeah, it looked like it to the Lancet too. I am faulting the Lancet, though, for falling into a pretty obvious trap.
Now, the next comment is more of a question, and simple one. What are your influences? Who are your influences? For me, the Sierra Club, when it comes to ecology, Sierra Club Environmental Justice Caucus, locally New Mexico Wild, they influence me on all the ecological things I talk about. And you're more than welcome to check them out. As I was an avid reader of Time magazine for a long time, but I found that a terrible slant. I also think Fox News and MSNBC are both slanted in different directions. And CBS I don't trust anymore either. But I'm influenced by ABC. They're the number one news source. And although they don't report the major stories that I want, they do report more liberally, not liberal slanted, but more honestly than other stations. And if you see, we're not experiencing an earthquake. The dog keeps walking underneath the camera. Okay, just so you know. Now, your influences.
It's easier, actually, for me to point to some childhood influences because the list is shorter. But that would include people like Isaac Newton, Leonardo da Vinci, Mr. Spock, and Abraham Lincoln were kind of my childhood heroes. As an adult, I read pretty widely, and I go out of my way to listen to and read people who I may initially disagree with. Sometimes they change my mind, sometimes they don't. You hear me use a lot of quotations, and again, I try to, for the most part, describe my sources as we go through. But I think the most important thing about my sources now is that I try very hard not to go into echo chambers. I definitely avoid MSNBC and Huffington Post because I want a more balanced viewpoint. So I look for either objectivity or I try to bookend opposing viewpoints if I can't find what I think of as a neutral, credible source.
Now, my educational influences are sociology, medical assistant, fashion merchandising, industrial marketing, and broadcasting. Those are all the things that I have various levels of degrees or certificates in, and acting. You?
So my background is more narrow than Pete's. I don't have as broad of an education as he does. My background is almost entirely in the sciences and whatever reading I do on my own. And nowadays I work as an ethicist, and so I've been doing a lot of studying into that field. So I don't have the breadth that Pete does.
So his background is, I'd like to know, and my background is, I don't know. So
Well, the things we don't know are more numerous than the things we do, so that would still give you a broader background.
Now, here's a question, and I think this is fine. It's a good question. Would you do more pop culture episodes? For instance, fashion, arts, cooking, and sports. The last 5 minutes want to do a fluff feature. We'll do some of that, and maybe we'll add a little more. I don't want to do all pop because there's too many actors, actresses, sports people doing those already. I think it's being beat into the ground. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is one of the areas where I'm going to defer to you, Pete, because those are just not things I have much expertise in.
That's scary.
But also, one of the other questions we got was, how about bringing on some guests? Man, we would love that. If you'd like to be a guest, or you'd like to recommend a guest, or you want to refer somebody to us who would like to have a discussion, that'd be great. We're right at the very beginning of all this. We're evolving as we go, and guests are one of the things on our wish list. I will say that if a guest comes on just to say, you guys are stupid and I hate you, we're not going to do anything with that. But if a guest comes on and can make a case for why we should view something differently, or they want to amplify a theme, or whoever wrote in that we should do more on women's issues, you know what? Would you like to be our guest? That'd be great. So yes, we'd love that.
Yeah, I'm very cool with that as well. And I think a guest would add a lot. So if you want to contact me, you contact me with these. And even if you want to tell me off, that's okay. Come on and we'll talk about it. That's fine. As long as we're all doing it in a
respectful
manner, civilized manner. Okay, and here's one is not so respectful. You two are alarmists. You're trying to scare people. You go first on this one.
There's a lot in the world that I'm pretty scared of right now. That I'm actually seeing Confederate flags, Ku Klux Klan paraphernalia, and Nazi swastikas at a political rally is literally as scary as it gets for me. And the fact that there are evangelicals who look forward to the apocalypse, they're not going, oh, well, don't worry, this won't lead to an apocalypse. They're going, yeah, great, isn't it? Yes, that is really scary to me. Climate change scares the crap out of me. Species extinction scares the crap out of me. And people believing TikTok and the loss of faith we have in medicine and science and objectivity, those things do in fact scare me. I'm speaking for myself here, not Pete, but if I sound alarmist, I think that sky is falling and we're trying to push it back up again.
I think there's a thin line between informative and alarmist. Informative is when you try to tell people about something and find out their reaction and their opinion. Alarmist is when you force your idea on someone and it's an idea that can hurt other people. Alarmists almost always have some type of underlying notion that they're trying to accomplish through scary. An alarmist is one step away from a terrorist, in my book.
And also, while there are things that scare the crap out of me that we talk about, our punchline is always, go out and learn about this. Our punchline is not, now we've told you what's what, you should agree with us. That would disappoint us greatly. If people said, well, it must be true because Coffee and Pete said it, you'd have completely missed the point of the podcast. But if you said, I never thought about that, let me see what I can find out, we win. So what we want is for you to go and do your own homework. What we don't want is for you to think we are that homework.
Yeah, reference and study on anything we talk about and fact check us. That's fine. I would like that. And I can see this coming. Next week I'm going to get in 2 weeks I'm going to get a message that says, I watched you last week and all you did was talk about yourselves. Okay. I can't deny it, this one. But I hope we're not being alarmist. I hope that we're just informing you.
But enough about me. What do you think about me?
Okay. You are somewhat uneducated on African American subjects. I admit I am. I'm trying to learn as I go along. And if you know someone that could join us and fill us in, I'm great with that.
Yeah, I'd endorse that. I don't think either one of us has claimed any expertise in that area. And in fact, I personally, I'll just say this up front, I don't believe race is a real thing. I think the concept is real and it does a lot of harm, but many other superstitions do as well. So I think the harm of racism is very real, but the concept of racism isn't scientifically supported at all. And so it's hard for me to think of people, genuinely hard for me to think of people as African American or we talk about women's issues a lot, which I know more about than Africans because I know more women than I know African Americans, I guess, though I know some of both. But the point that I'm trying to get at is I also don't really know how to talk about women as if they were different than men. Women are people. We talk about people. But if you have expertise in gender studies or African American issues or something, and you want to come and educate us, please, 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 we would love that.
Yeah, and I want to say that if you feel we're not doing a deep enough dive on a subject, maybe we can do a whole episode on it. That's fine with me. I'm more than happy to do that. What are your credentials? I think that goes back to, it's a little different than what are your sources. And I think we both gave our educational credentials. And let me point this out. I'm a certified medical assistant, the absolute lowest run on the medical ladder. But I would tell you, I have that limited amount of expertise in that subject. But as to our credentials, I think it's most of this, I hope, isn't opinion. Most of this is fact with how we feel about it without trying to give you your opinion. I hope you gain an opinion from it. I hope you do a deep dive on anything we say.
Yeah, happy to share our credentials, but I don't want to imply that if we have this or that credential, that means you should believe what we say. Our goal entirely is to get you to go do some homework outside of your comfort zone. And so it doesn't really matter whether you think we're expert on a topic or not. What matters is, can we get you to scratch your head and say, never thought of it that way? If we can do that, then we win. So I mentioned earlier my undergraduate degrees are chemistry, physics, and biology. At my college, which was University of Arizona, that was a combined degree. So what I have is a Bachelor of Science, but I had to complete all the degree requirements for all three bachelors to get that. So I want to clarify what I mean when I say that. Eventually, I went to medical school, so my background would be in the hard sciences and in medicine. And over the last 3-4 years, I've been deeply embedded in studying ethics. So to the degree that those count as credentials, but none of those mean that you should take I literally mean you should never take my word for anything. I'm just telling you what education I bring to my own homework. But you'll bring your background to your homework. All we really want you to do is to get out of your comfort zone and consider ideas that you think you're not going to be interested in and find out whether there might be a there. And sometimes there won't be. Sometimes you'll look at something that we have tried to raise a question about and you'll say, you know what, those two guys are wrong. I believe what I believed yesterday. Okay, that's fine. But if you never change your mind, you are not thinking at all. The point of thinking is to evolve our understanding of the world. Sometimes you change your mind in the direction of, I'm more sure than I was before, or I understand this thing I'm sure of better than I did before. Sometimes it's like, that's more nuanced and confusing than I thought it was, and that's a big step in evolution. But if your goal is to think the same thing tomorrow you thought yesterday, this is not the podcast for you. And in fact, thinking itself isn't for you. You'll just burn calories for no purpose.
One of our final questions is, when you get into a topic that interests me, I like to take a few notes. Could you slow down? It is kind of a catch-22. I don't know when to slow down, and if we do, that's going to bore some people, so I'm not sure about that.
So I appreciate the comment. We'll have to think about how we could integrate that. One way is we'd like to get captions going. That might help. And of course, these are recorded, so you can back them up and run things again. And believe it or not, we have an audience today, and a question from the peanut gallery. You in the chair over there.
What if you do like a point of all the subjects?
PowerPoint?
They just do it at the ending or closing.
That's
or the beginning. And
way too complicated. That's work. I don't want to go to work.
We're sort of evolving, but because these conversations occur in real time. We wouldn't have a PowerPoint going ahead of time. We could assemble one after the fact and tack it on. And I've been working on doing that. I've been working on a methodology for that, and I haven't gotten good at it yet. So we'll add that to our homework list. And we have a homework list too, not just you.
The final question is one we have to address, and that's fine. Your production value is low. It is. And here's the point. We're learning as we go along. I'm going to eventually, we have an art card up front. I want to put one at the end with credits. I want rolling credits. I'd like music in and out. And I'd like several other things that I don't have the capability on this computer once I get that. And once I get a little help, I have a techie that's going to help me with some of this. And I know for most of you, you say, that's so basic. There's like an 11-year-old kid going, oh boy, look at these two. Oh, somebody made this comment too. It's nice to see two old guys still get something done. How dare you? How frickin' dare you?
Well, I'm 23. What are you talking about? Old.
I don't think you meant both of us.
I think credit where credit's due. I'd just like to point out that when I was born, I couldn't speak, I couldn't walk, I couldn't do anything with my hands, I couldn't even feed myself. Look how far I've come, and this podcast is at the beginning, and we'll come far on it too.
I'm still looking for a job one step below evolution. Okay, that's about all the time we have for today. Thank you. As Dean Martin used to say, keep them cards and let us roll it in. No, thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Very much so.
I'm Pete Christensen.
I'm Coffee Brown.
And remember,
Don't die dumb.